And as promised earlier, we want to have a conversation about the new national labor immigration policy that has been tabled as a white paper for now. And it is particularly around the idea of quotas and limiting the number of foreign nationals that can be employed. The National Employers Association, NESA, I hope I'm getting that one right, Gerhard. I don't know how that acronym is pronounced, has a view on this and believes that there might be unconstitutionalities that are in that in terms of limiting how many foreign nationals or whether companies can employ foreign nationals. Gerhard Papenfus has joined us this morning. He's the CEO of the Employers Association. Gerhard, thank you so much for joining us this morning. What is the concern that you particularly have around this new bill or white paper?
Well, just in general, we all respect immigration laws. But you know what? In the first place, we shouldn't have allowed millions of immigrants coming into the countries, because once they're here, they've got to work. That's why they come here in the first place.
Sure.
If you don't want them here, you shouldn't have allowed them. So they're here now, and they are employed in many places. And they are, many of them, and of course, many of them are very good workers and play a key role in businesses. And it is causing a huge dilemma now for business to get rid of these people if that happens. And so government need to take that into consideration. And of course, there's a situation where business needs certain expertise. If a German company is in South Africa and they want German engineers, you must allow for that. And I think that the government must be very careful not to overreach in terms of their say in the affairs of business. That's our big concern. You know, you cannot govern everything from the center. Governments must stay out of business as far as possible. And you think you must make room for South Africans, but I mean there's very limited opportunities for that. Businesses that thrive, that appoint the best people for the job, these businesses are the businesses that create jobs, and businesses don't want government interference. Government must stay out of it, and this is our main concern.
So,
yes.
I mean, it's all well and good to say government should stay out, but of course, government's job is to look out for the public good and to also keep a society orderly. So to say the government must stay out of business seems to be a stretch. Surely you're interested in appropriate regulation. But let's just go back to the migration issue itself. You are claiming not only that government is overreaching, you're claiming that there's possible unconstitutionality. What is that claim about?
The interference in the affairs of business.
So you're thinking
that's the same thing with the Employment Equity Act. You know, when a businessman starts, an entrepreneur starts a business, the one reason he's doing that is the freedom to make choices for that business within the confines of the law, of course. But the moment there's overreach from government, too much interference, and that is what we warn against. And when you set quotas, that's a very, very dangerous area. Can you tell a business you are allowed so many? And I'm using the example of a German company with German engineers, and you say, I will only allow you 2, for instance. And you know what will happen the moment the company sees, but listen, I don't want this, don't want that interference. They will leave, and we're seeing that happening, and we will see in the days to come more and more happening where foreign businesses are going to leave South Africa because of the interference in the business.
But
when a company has the right to do its business, that company will grow, and then they will employ. So how will we employ South Africans? We must grow the economy. That's the first thing. We must get the base right and grow the economy.
But by your argument, even if we grew the economy, if a business only wanted to employ foreign nationals, they should have the right to do that. Because you're saying no interference. You did make the caveat, though, and it's an important caveat that you made, within the bounds of the law. And isn't that the whole point? So the law already says now that what we should do is prioritize hiring foreign nationals where there are scarce skills in the country. What you seem to be saying is that it should go beyond even scarce skills, because the German example that you're making is if that German company, for example, has a particular skill that is so scarce that they cannot find it in South Africa, of course it makes sense not to cap them if those skills are not available here. But that's exactly what the law is asking for. The law is saying, let us first make sure that those skills and abilities are not necessarily found here. Are you then saying to me that we should go beyond scarce skills and just be able to hire foreign nationals en masse, regardless of whether those skills exist in the country already?
Let's start on the topic of the German company, just as an example.
Sure.
Now, a German company won't come to South Africa with the purpose to employ Germans in South Africa, because then they could have left their company in Germany.
Right.
What they will do, they come to South Africa, but because there's certain benefits, labor is perhaps cheaper than what it is in Germany. So, of course, they will use South Africans. So they will always only utilize particular special skills in certain jobs. My concern is not the arrangement that it must be a special skill, it is the quota. That is where the problem lies.
But if
The moment you set quotas, that you know,
but does the quota not protect?
Skills.
Does the quota not protect our labor force and the possibility of companies? So let's move away from the German company, because there we're talking about the specialized skill in the ambit of where the law already has guardrails. But let's talk about people working in restaurants, for example. Not a scarce skill, not a specialized skill. And if companies decide that they're going to en masse only have foreign nationals or majority foreign nationals, surely the government can have a role in that, in protecting the rights of South Africans to work and participate in the labor force. And that can have an infringement on the company's ability to make choices, but it's in the best interest of a country that has 40% unemployment.
You know what? I can't actually differ from your argument when you talk about, for instance, a restaurant.
Right.
But I just want to leave one question in our midst. Why will a restaurateur, in some cases, appoint foreigners? Now, of course, people will say, well, he paid them this, but let's put that argument aside, because I don't think that's the case. Of course, there are abusive foreign workers. I believe it happens. Okay. But let's say that's not happening. Let's say you get a person from wherever, and you say that I prefer these workers because of their attitude, for instance. That is a question we must leave in the midst of this whole debate. Why do certain restaurants say, I prefer people from whatever?
And that's a great question, because you're saying let's put on hold the normative argument that it's just so that they can pay them less or exploit them. But my question is, if your company's interests and preferences is actually harmful to the country's economic status and the opportunities that South Africans need, is that not harmful? And I think that, and maybe we can end the conversation here, because I think we can agree on this one thing, that we want South African companies or companies that operate in South Africa to have the country's best interests at heart. I would assume that we agree on that. So I think that maybe the litmus test here is not whether or not the government can't tell companies what to do, but whether or not companies actually are operating with the best interest of society at heart and not only their bottom line. And because I think both of us can agree we want companies that are working in the best interest of the country.
I just argue and plead for as little as possible government interference, because at the end of the day, if you say a company must only have, first of all, have the interest of the country at heart, I will say companies must have, first of all, their own interest at heart. Because the private companies create jobs. Thriving companies create jobs. But you know what? All countries have immigration laws, and we must have that as well.
Absolutely.
So I understand.
And that part we also agree then, Gerhard.
But balance where we argue.
Yeah, I'm going to have to cut it there, but thank you so much, Gerhard, for giving us the view there of the Employers Association on the immigration policy.